if you let trans people exist, you can't oppress women with like gender, the way you're like behaving and whatnot. You're already a woman. Society just put the label boy on me.
I'm literally just a girl. That's what the thumbnail of this says. Like, it's very difficult to call someone a woman when it's a cartoon and all I hear is a man.
The booba isn't big enough. I don't necessarily fit in with other men.
You fit in with women, you say the word booba.
I'm more of a tomboy than a femboy because I'm not a man. I do like to dress up and I do things that I haven't been able to do in my entire life because I was socialized as a boy.
At what point is it not just Occam's razor? You're a man. You're a feminine man. What's wrong with that? He's generalizing TERFs, generalizing him.
I love you, Mary.
All right, do we want to watch another VTuber? Maybe we do. We probably don't, but I do. So I have Stop Insisting That Trans Women Are Femboys. Nyara VDT. Now I wanna show the what's it called? The thumbnail to this.
It's
every nyan. Okay, lovely, amazing. It's a good start, isn't it? Can you see this? Can you see this? It's a bit cut off. I'm literally just a girl. That's what the thumbnail of this says. How nice. Clearly you're not. If you're a trans woman, you're not a girl. I mean, if you're a trans woman, you presumably are an adult. You shouldn't be calling yourself a girl in the first place. So yeah, I'm not holding out much hope. I think it probably will end up being a bit delusional, but hey. Thank you for subscribing, Irvin Escalante. Thank you. But yeah, I don't know. Insisting that trans women are femboys. Let's see what's happening.
How has bottom surgery improved your self-image and views on yourself? I feel free. I feel closer to being myself. I feel like a core issue that I've been struggling with in the past 28 years was just resolved immediately. It helped me with energy. It helped.
Honeymoon phase, maybe? Do we think this is gonna last? The thing is, you can feel this way when you get surgery, but it's gonna get mundane, you know? It's gonna get boring. And you might realize that those feelings, they fade away and you still feel the same you did before.
Helped me with self-confidence. It made me realize that I can dress more feminine. Don't have to cry when I look at myself naked. I don't have to...
You don't have to cry when you look at yourself naked anyway. This kind of sounds like why we should maybe consider seeing therapists that aren't with WPATH or aren't gender therapists about stuff like this. But hey, that's supposedly called... what's the word again? Conversion therapy. So, I don't know.
Worry about like my in-between anatomy to like...
Is that Max?
Touch my skin and whatnot. It always made me feel yucky. How bad was the recovery? That's the one that scares me. All the first 7 days, they were hell. It got better really quickly. Like once all the stuff is removed, once the packing inside is removed, dilating is like really uncomfortable.
What is this, by the way? You've got, you matter, you're valid, blah, blah, blah. I will eat you. Like, this isn't a metaphor. I will literally drain you of your life source and devour you so I can live longer. What is this already? What is going on?
Comfortable in the beginning because you're still healing and it feels like you're kind of burning. But yeah, like you're going to get through it. I just hope everything is going well. I just hope everything is going to be fine and there aren't any complications. Hearing that your dysphoria was just gone was very fascinating, important information. Yeah, that's the fascinating thing. It's like I can tell people it's like, oh, so I struggled with this all my life and then I had the surgery and everything. Like it was a core issue that was just like resolved. That was just like,
I mean, if your gender dysphoria is that much resolved, why do you even need to hide behind an avatar? Shouldn't you be happy showing yourself off? It doesn't just get rid of your gender dysphoria, because unless literally this person's penis was the only part of themselves that they look at and see as male, which is extremely unlikely to be the case, then your gender dysphoria has not gone away. And you're encouraging others to treat it this way by talking about it this way. Not only that, but like, you're kind of lying to yourself, because it's going to get old. You're going to look at yourself in the mirror just because you got dressed. You want to make sure you look okay and still see all like your facial features, all your like bodily features, the way you're shaped and stuff that do still bother you. And so, I don't know, man. It's a very dangerous way of thinking, quite frankly. Because what happens when you realize it's not true?
You know, patched out, and it fixed so many different areas of my life. And then people turn around and they're like, no, you fell for Big Pharma. No, it was just Big Pharma propaganda. Nah, you're actually not happy.
Okay, so straight away, this person's very culturally trans, I would say. Complaining about the right wing. The worst people in the world, and none of them are trans. This Blade of the Sun person, by the way. I see them a lot. They have almost 200,000 followers. Everything they post is utterly moronic. Like the worst kind of like leftoid. And I lean left, you know what I mean? I should agree with plenty of it, but I don't. Oh, and here we go. What is it? Violent fantasy. It's time to bring back the guillotine. Nice. Nice. I still haven't learned how to squirt, but we're not like fascists or whatever, you know what I mean? There's no fascists. Right-wing VTubers. It's all about the right versus left. Everyone's saying that, like there was a Vorsh thumbnail or like stream title about Elon Musk doing a coup. Like, what is that all about? I guess I need to have a look, but joins government without pay as efficiency start. We already knew this. We already fucking knew this. Like, without pay. He doesn't fucking need paying. He's the richest man in the world. Like, in a way, isn't it kind of a good thing that he's not taking, like, taxpayers' money? Considering how rich he is? I don't know, man. Here's the thing. I don't actually like Elon Musk, but it seems like everyone's criticism of him is so stupid. Talking about butt plugs. How nice. Talking about trans rights. People begging me to peg me. Wow, nice. Transphobic hat when I showed a dilator. What, should you be showing that kind of stuff off? It's so weird. It's so ratchet, man. It's so... I don't know, man. We've got this, like, weird childish shit mixed with the weird fetishy shit. Mixed with, like, the violent fantasies and the culturally trans, like, politicized kind of shit. It's just weird. All of these people are, like... I struggle telling most of them apart, quite honestly. Anyway, we're watching something.
Actually, you're not happy. You're actually miserable. I think a channel called Powered by Rainbows is where I first heard about it.
Powered by Rainbow, oh my god. And they're like doing it uncritically. This is bullshit. Many MRIs have shown that basically the brain is the opposite sex of the body or something like that. Nobody gets their brain scanned. This is not accepted anywhere. And like, if you're going to push appeals to authorities, like, you know, well, this organization, that organization says, does WPATH fucking insist that if you're trans, then you should get a brain scan? No, they don't. Powered by Rainbows is full of shit. I don't think I've watched one video by Powered by Rainbows that really had anything of substance, you know?
But many MRIs have shown that basically the brain is opposite sex of the body or something like that.
He's going to believe it, isn't he? We're just going to believe it straight away. Oh no.
I heard a lot of mixed things about it.
Oh, there we go. You have very slightly exceeded my expectations. Well done.
Because it's more that, like, once you're on HRT, it's like your brain is closer to that of the opposite sex. It hasn't been properly researched yet, so people don't actually, like, know if this is actually, like, a good talking point, you know?
Yeah, it's not going to be researched. Like, trans people resist this kind of shit because what would happen is, let's say there is actually a link, then what they'll be able to do is diagnose it via brain scan. And the problem with that is, that means people are going to show up potentially saying, hey, I'm trans, I need to be transitioned, because that's how it works now. They demand treatment rather than seeking help for a problem. And they might scan their brain and be like, nope, you're definitely a man. But they don't identify as a man. So it's like, how do you resolve that? So really, these kind of people, they don't actually want this kind of thing. So it's legitimizing on the one hand, but it's exclusionary on the other. And that's the problem. We're stuck in this place where we have to be like, what's the word? Unfalsifiable, where it can't ever really be proven or disproven. You know what I mean? Asmongold didn't do that. Yeah, probably not. People, I don't know why people hate on Asmongold so much. He says some crazy shit sometimes, but I don't fucking know. I don't really have an issue with it myself.
Like, it's the same with, like, finding the gay gene. There doesn't seem to be as much info
Yes, he's actually saying the exact same thing that I was.
about this topic as there should be. Yeah, I fit in with other women. It doesn't matter if they're cis or trans. I don't necessarily fit in the gay gene. There doesn't seem to be as much info about this topic as there should be. Yeah, I fit in with other women.
Do you fit in with other women when you're talking about wanting to learn how to squirt? Do you fit in with other women when you're talking about, like, violent shit? That kind of thing? In fact, many TRA deny gender dysphoria being need to be trans. Brain scan testing wouldn't get anywhere. Well, yeah, they don't want any kind of, they don't want anything to nail it down to. They want it to be unfalsifiable. So plenty of people won't believe you either way, but you'll never have to admit that actually you're just a man the whole time, because other people will believe you.
It doesn't matter if they're cis or trans. I don't necessarily fit in with other men. And that has been like all my life. I have conversations with like therapists and like other women, and they're like, oh,
yeah, there's a bit of a clear discrepancy. Audio wise. Like, it's very difficult to call someone a woman when it's a cartoon and all I hear is a man. Like, it's like watching Surus or something, who isn't a woman. You were talking about pegging. How is that fitting with other women? Exactly. I don't fucking get it. Like, you probably act very differently. But that means you're kind of keeping who you really are on the down low. And to be honest, I feel like if you got on well with women in real life and then they found your Twitter, they would probably then start feeling very differently about you because they feel a bit misled. You know what I mean?
you know, the way you're like speaking about things, the way you're like behaving and whatnot, you're already a woman, like even before transitioning. A lot of other women, and they're like, oh, you know, the way you're like speaking about things, the way you're like behaving and whatnot, you're already a woman, like even before transitioning.
I'll believe it when I see it. I'll believe it when someone comes forward and said, yep, that's true, I was that woman.
A lot of my friends always like use that as like a point to like bully me because they're like, oh, you're acting like a woman. Yeah, it sounds so misogynist.
It's all based in just validation. Just validate me based on these stories I'm telling, which are any of them true? Well, it's hard to tell because you think you're the other sex to what you are. So your opinion on stuff is a bit suspect already.
And whatnot. Like, I don't want to like use that as like a justification.
Oh, thank you running with my feet, excuse me. Thank you for watching.
For me being trans and me being well, because like I'm
cartoonists because they aren't ever passing. Yeah, it makes me very suspicious of someone's claims about gender dysphoria going away. When it's like, well, why are you hiding then? What's behind this that you don't want us to see? If I look at that, am I going to believe you when you say that your gender dysphoria has gone away? Because gender dysphoria is very rarely just concentrated around the genitals, you know what I'm saying? Unless you're like so AGP that literally all you care about is being fucked as a woman, you know? But hey, I don't know. I could believe it, to be honest. The handmaiden is strong. Yeah, but then that raises the question. Are people not just kind of ass-patting you? Are people not just like appeasing you, saying what they think you want to hear?
I'm just a woman. Euphoria, yeah, exactly. It's gender affirming misogyny, and I don't like it. It's yucky. I was like fascinated by it with like, oh, the brainwaves actually match that of, you know.
Wait, how is that misogyny? It's all about the bizarre theories about misogyny today. I swear to God.
I'm just a woman. Euphoria, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it sounds so misogynistic and whatnot. Like, I don't want to like use that as like a justification for me being trans and me being well, because like I'm just a woman.
No, you're not. Clearly not.
Euphoria, yeah, exactly. It's gender affirming misogyny, and I don't like it. It's yucky. I was like fascinated by it with like, oh, the brainwaves actually match that of, you know, cis women and they're like trans.
How on earth would you show? How do they? Like, I don't know about this, man.
Women are closer to cis women than they are with like cis men.
After HRT or before HRT?
Isn't enough research to back it up, but like it shouldn't matter if there's like a hidden gene that makes you gay or that makes you trans. Like just respect the human as a human. And if a trans woman,
If it's just respect a human as a human, then why do you need to claim that you're a woman? Why would it matter? If you're a gender abolitionist, why are you co-opting the word woman in the first place?
says that they are a woman, then don't challenge that. Surgery also a very big question for me. This woman says that makes you trans. Like just respect the human as a human. And if a trans woman says that they are a woman, then don't challenge that.
What if they don't believe you? What if you're trying to enter into somewhere that only women should be? What if you decide that you want to enter a sport as a woman when you're clearly not one? What if someone just doesn't like being told not to believe their own eyes and ears? And you're risking coming off as delusional. You know what I mean? There's so many fucking problems with this. And like, I'm surprised to be hearing people still talking about this kind of stuff, or talking like this, should I say, in 2025, frankly.
Surgery also a very big question for me. On one side, I'm yes, please skip now. On the other side, I'm worried. What if it isn't the right
Not that we like glorify surgery. Not that that isn't a huge fucking problem.
thing for me? So the regret rate on it is like
Listen, anyone that disbelieves me, sorry, I'm pausing so much, I do apologize. Anyone that disbelieves me when I talk about how much we glorify surgery, go watch the Brad Palumbo, Blair White, and Brianna Wu thing. The two outspoken trans people they could find. Bearing in mind, there's lots of outspoken trans women out there. The two that get brought on, they both have their face like, I don't know if there's any like bone and flesh left in there. You know what I mean? It's terrifying. What if I'm going to regret it? And so, I mean, at least this person's thinking, I guess, but I don't know. She, they, yikes.
yes, please skip now. On the other side, I'm worried. What if it isn't the right thing for me? So the regret rate on it is like incredibly low. You should still work with like a therapist, with like an
The regret rate is very low, according to studies. But studies only take so much weight. Any study you look at, there's strengths of it, there's weaknesses of it. People aren't necessarily going to say that they regret something out of sunk cost fallacy, out of not wanting right-wingers to think that people don't like this kind of shit. They regret this kind of shit, whatever I'm fucking trying to say.
expert that you
Don't challenge me to say yes and agree. Yeah, true. Plenty of people will just balk on that, like that alone. And you got to consider like how you're coming across and how you're integrating into society. But then plenty of these people don't actually want to integrate. They want something called transliberation, which whatever the fuck that means, I have no idea.
regret rate on it is like incredibly low. You should still work with like a therapist, with like an expert that you trust on figuring out if that is the right path for you. I can't make this decision for you. I can literally just tell you, this was my path. It helped
Yeah, but you'll tell them that regret rate is low without really knowing what you're talking about. So I don't know, man.
me. If I'm going to do my pirate software moment, and I'm not talking about being a furry, I had gender dysphoria. Things that I've been struggling with, there are a lot of like superficial things. Like obviously, oh, you know, like, oh, I'm tall. The booba isn't.
Wait, but you were saying that your gender dysphoria is gone. You're willing to accept that you're tall now that you've had surgery? I mean, okay, I guess. You said booba. I don't know. You fit in with women, you say the word booba.
Like superficial things. Like obviously, oh, you know, like, oh, I'm tall. The booba isn't big enough. Or
Oh, man. I have never in my life heard a woman say booba. It's like nominal Naomi shit. Like, the way they talk, just being so utterly unlike any grown woman I have ever met in my life. Booba. No, just don't, man. Just don't.
or body fat redistribution.
Wrote boba.
All these like superficial things. But a core issue that I always had was because of my anatomy. And I restricted myself because of it.
These things are anatomy. Like, ah, man, I don't get it, man. I don't get it. They're the same. They're in the same thing. It doesn't make any sense. I said booba once, ironically, like 3 years ago. Yeah, these people like to claim that they say stuff like this, ironically, but they don't. I'm sorry. That's a lie.
I didn't go swimming. I didn't like showering. I didn't like going to the
You're a VTuber. I didn't have to be told that you don't like showering. That's a joke, by the way.
The bathroom, I'd struggle sleeping because I always had like something between my legs.
Knee surgery has a higher documented regret rate than SRS. However, zero evidence that even the most regretful knee surgery patient has ever taken their own life post-surgery. Yeah, that's true. The counter they'll probably use is, oh, it's all about transphobia. It's all about transphobia. But the truth is, the suicide rates are because of all sorts of different reasons. It would be ridiculous to say that every trans suicide is because of transphobia. It would also be ridiculous, to be fair, to say that all trans suicide is because of surgery regret. But you've got to accept that it's not zero. And considering how trans communities are when it comes to like regretful detransitioners and stuff, it's very difficult to accept that nobody ever kills themselves because they regret surgery or transitioning in general.
That made me like uncomfortable. I didn't like wearing certain clothes because it reminded me of my anatomy, and all these things were just because of my anatomy. HRT, legal name change and whatnot, it helped with a lot of like superficial type things. Like obviously there are a lot of
like tall being superficial. I mean, is that superficial? It's part of you, who you are, you know what I mean? It's not something you'll change.
Things that I can't change. For example, like I can never change my height or whatnot. But like a lot of my issues were caused because of my anatomy. And now fixing that anatomy like immediately solved issues like, oh, now I can go swimming. Oh, now I can shower. Oh, now I don't struggle with intimacy. Now I don't struggle with like wearing certain clothes.
No, I don't struggle with intimacy. Don't know about that.
And whatnot. And it solved a lot of things, and it helped me with like depression, anxiety, especially social anxiety. It gave me energy because it felt like, okay, now my life is actually about to start.
Booba is far worse than YOLO or swag. I'm just gonna say that. Andy, no, the Ziz thing, yeah, I need to look into that. I've seen bits and pieces about it. It seems nasty, quite frankly.
I'm no longer like stuck in limbo and like being numb and whatnot. I'm still the
Technically you can change your height through surgery. Well, yeah, but I mean your height is like genetic, right? It's part of, it's just how you ended up. Like, yeah, you cut your legs off by the knee, then yeah, you're gonna be shorter, but that's kind of post growing, and you know, naturally you grew to a certain height.
the same person, but like my energy is no longer being drained because of my anatomy. How old were you when you realized you were trans? I didn't know what being trans was. Energy is no longer in limbo and like being numb and whatnot. I'm still the same person, but like my energy is no longer being drained because of my anatomy.
This is pseudoscience.
How old were you when you realized you were trans? I didn't know what.
Yeah, you can get taller by like getting metal rods put into you. I've actually read a bunch of stuff about that like years and years ago. But it's all after the fact. Like you grow to a certain height, and like he says this is what was it? Superficial. When actually it's like that's part of your anatomy. I don't get it, man. I don't get it. And it's still, you're still the same height you are. Unless you literally have had your legs amputated, you know what I mean? But you don't have dysphoria about that anymore. This isn't quite adding up. Oh, hi, Epic Wade. I hope you're good.
Well, being trans was, but I always knew that I'm not a boy. Fascinating. So would you
always knew that I'm not a boy? Once again, what do we keep hearing from like mouthpieces like Jammy Dodger? Trans people understand biology. They know they're not actually the wrong sex. No. I truly do not believe that. There's far too much of a pattern. There's far too many people saying this exact thing for there not to be a problem with trans people not understanding biology. Or taking on some kind of belief system or philosophy that they think overrides that. When how the fuck can you override your sex philosophically? That doesn't make any sense. You still are what you are.
say it was like a reverse phantom limb at times? I still knew my body. I was able to like physically touch it. I was able to perceive it. It was more like a tumor, something that just didn't belong. At least with that, it means you're.
If anyone had to go work in long-term care, they might realize looks and sex matter much less than your character. Yeah, that is true.
Taking it seriously and not just blindly jumping into it, which is a good path I'm figuring out. It's a huge.
Most regretful thing about any surgery is the itching. Yeah, quite possible. Listen, the only surgery I've had is SRS, so.
Decision. I'm not telling people it's like, oh, you know, you have dysphoria, go get your limbs chopped off. You know, that's what the right wants you to believe, but that's.
I've never heard a right-wing person say that that's what they think. you might be referring to them sort of alluding to BIID, or body integrity identity disorder. But that's kind of more of a analogy. Like, you know, someone comes to you saying, I really need this arm taken off. I need my arm taken off. Do you take that arm off when it's like perfectly healthy and there's no physical reason why you should, when it's clearly all up in here, and that taking that arm off, maybe it'll feel better for them temporarily, but if they've got this shit going on in their head and they resolve that shit, might they then regret having their arm taken off? It's much more of an analogy, I guess, but I'm being charitable. This person, I've looked at their Twitter, we've already seen that. They clearly have a chip on their shoulder about right-wingers, and, well, hey, I know what our media is like, so I don't know how much I can even blame this person for that. Like, do they read Erin in the morning? You know what I mean?
Not actually what we're saying. You should like figure yourself out. What is actually the core issue when it comes to my gender dysphoria? Is it things like,
the thing is, you can only really like guess on this kind of stuff. You don't actually know. You can only come up with your best guess as to why it is you feel gender dysphoria. I don't know for sure either. I can point to a few different things, most of which I'd rather not discuss on here, honestly. But like, I don't know. You never really know. And at any point, you can narrow it down to something, and then years later, realize that it's something else. That's perfectly possible. So it's very dangerous to even think in this way, quite honestly.
yourself out. What is actually the core issue when it comes to my gender dysphoria? Is it things like, legal name change? I want to grow my hair out. I want to present more feminine. I want to wear like more feminine clothing and whatnot. Then you go like lower. Okay, am I insecure because like my body's puberty doesn't align with who my gender identity is? You go through all these things and like at the bottom, if you're like a trans man and it's like, oh, I feel insecure. I hate that I have to buy and I need to get this surgery. I can't go like shirtless outside. It makes me feel insecure and whatnot.
Yeah, all of that makes you think that they should probably see someone and resolve the issues that they're having instead of getting all this stuff chopped off and then hoping that they don't change their mind later. You know what I mean? Right equals bad has been the narrative. Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, I understand in a way because in like historically, I guess there is more like transphobia on the right than the left. You get like evangelical Christians who don't agree with things like this, which is their right. But then some people are outspoken and kind of aggressive with it. And then the other thing is trans people, because they generally have worse prospects in life. They tend to lean left because the left kind of signals way more to like poor people. And like, well, at least not so much nowadays, but like it seemed like people that leaned left used to kind of acknowledge class an awful lot more and kind of understand people's frustrations about being kind of stuck in one place. And like you go into a job and all the managerial positions are taken and you just do it for as long as you can until you get something better. But then you might just end up fucking around in dead-end jobs the rest of your life and not feel very satisfied by that. There's all kinds of things. But like it's just evolved into this boogeyman shit where actually the right seems to be kind of progressing in its own way to the point where now plenty of gay people are now turning to the right because they're getting sick of how far away the left has gone. So it's very complicated, and it really bothers me how much these people just simplify it the way they do because they want an us versus them thing. And like thinking of things in an us versus them way is rarely helpful, in my opinion.
And if you're a trans woman, it's like, okay, there's bottom surgery. Is that really the right path? And you really have to be sure. But like, this is why the regret rate is so incredibly low, because you go through all these changes and it's not like
that. This really is not necessarily true. You're again, this is your guess. You really don't know any of this shit. It's very dangerous, in fact, to be pushing this kind of thing. Someone's saying in here, they're worried about whether they'll end up regretting it. And this is what you're saying? Like, this is quite dangerous. You say that you're not trying to convince anyone to get surgery, but then you're parroting all this stuff and forming theories about why it is, as if you think that's fact, you know what I mean? There's trans folk turning to the right for the same reason. Yeah, nowadays, yeah. Because like I said, the right is kind of like progressing a lot in some ways. And like, I will keep going on about this, and I need to go back and look at more stuff about it. But that Blair White debate, she was on this debate with like that Karlin Borisenko. And then they had someone called John Doyle on the other side and someone called Lauren Witzke, who was extremely like transphobic, like just against anything to do with trans. But like the right has moved much more in the direction of someone like Blair White than of Lauren Witzke, who is very much a fringe, you know what I mean?
like, okay, there's bottom surgery. Is that really the right path? And you really have to be sure. But like, this is why the regret rate is so incredibly low, because you go through all these changes and it's not like, okay, my boobs are too small. Let me get surgery and let me make them bigger. No, that is what cis women do. Karen, what you say is impressively interesting because because you go through all these changes and it's not like, okay, my boobs are too small. Let me get surgery and let me make them bigger. No, that is what cis women do. Karen, what you say is impressively
I don't even know what the fuck that was supposed to mean.
interesting because for me, gender is more in my head, ND, but I've rarely felt dysphoria. It sucks.
And what is your gender? It's just something you call yourself then. Lauren Witzke is a communist, LARPing as a Nazi. Is that true? I have no idea. I don't know that much about her. The stuff she was espousing was not communism, but, well, as far as I can tell anyway, but hey.
In society, because like, even if you're like androgynous, people still put you in like either or category. People still like want to shove non-binary people into the binary box.
That's not what that means. People see different things. Yeah, I mean, well, Carlin was on there as like a moderate right-winger, but I don't know where she's at nowadays. I've never been like blown away by Carlin, to be clear. Like, she says some kind of crazy stuff, but I'm not going to be able to substantiate that, just to be clear.
Like either or sex in society, because like, even if you're like androgynous, people still put you in like either or category.
Yeah, this is just natural for people to do because you've got males and females, and like the way you think about stuff, like the way everyone's programmed, you probably do see people as like potential mates or potential rivals, you know what I mean? That's probably evolutionary to a certain extent. So it probably makes sense that people think this way. It's not shoving people into a gender binary. That's like Julia Serrano shit, you know what I mean?
People still like want to shove non-binary people into the binary box. That can be like incredibly frustrating. It's like, oh, you know, I'm actually like in.
Well, why is it frustrating? Like, why are you frustrated that someone sees you as your sex rather than what you're stating your gender to be? Isn't that to be expected? Like, your only options really are to embrace your gender, your sex, should I say, and stop caring. Or do things to try and get people to refer to you as a certain way. But most people see men and women because men and women is what we have. You know what I mean?
In the middle, and like, it shouldn't matter what my body.
But what's the middle? How can you be 50% male and 50% female? That doesn't exist. There isn't such thing. There's no middle sex. In terms of gender, I don't even know if everyone has their own gender. I think it's just your experience. And like, quantifying it as being this much male and this much female is strange. Like, you just have masculine and feminine characteristics. Everyone does. At a certain point, we're just pathologizing, like, gender nonconformity again. Androgynous people of both sexes exist. Exactly, yeah. You're a male or a female. Like, men can take on feminine traits because feminine and masculine are just things that are associated more with one or the other sex. You know what I mean? But it's very difficult to put anyone on a sliding scale. We're all non-binary. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It doesn't make sense to put people on this kind of sliding scale because everyone just is a mixture of things. Like, and masculine and feminine aren't innate things, really. Like, they're cultural things. What's innate is male or female.
Body is. But no, people are just like, oh, nope, you don't fit into my worldview. And they use like...
Went down a rabbit hole. Found a paper called What is Androgyny by Dr. Elizabeth Bosky. Short but very good. Touches on all of this. Okay, I'll have to have a look. Thank you. Thank you so much. Let me just copy that. I usually Google search stuff that people send me so I can remember it for another time.
Things about your body or like how you present yourself to shove you into either or category, and it sucks. Like, that can be really frustrating. It's kind of a break to make me feel along the trans community. Like, I love you all, and funny enough, I do get you, but I've always been content of my body. Trans is an umbrella term. Like, non-binary people like fit in the trans community and they're valid, and you know, you shouldn't feel insecure if you don't have, like, you shouldn't feel invalid just because you don't have dysphoria. Trans doesn't mean that you have gender dysphoria. It doesn't mean that you want to have surgery. It doesn't even mean that you have to transition. It literally just means that your gender identity doesn't matter.
What's your gender identity then? If you're going to use this as a definition and reject everything else, then you have to explain what a gender identity is and how it's not just something that you make up. Or maybe it is just something you make up and you literally just think it's a choice, in which case, well, why would you have like protections? Why would you have you know, what word am I thinking of? I can't fucking right now. Like, why would it be a protected characteristic to like take on a certain lifestyle? You know what I mean? Because that's part of the whole reason why like there was a push that gay is something innate. And I guess it makes sense to feel that way because you don't really know why you're attracted to something. You just find what you find attractive. You know what I mean? I talked about this in the Discord already. I wear makeup and a wig sometimes because I like it. It doesn't make me a woman. Yeah, of course. Oh yeah. I think we were talking earlier. Oh yeah. Sorry. Sometimes because people have different names. Sometimes I don't know who's who. But it's good to talk to you.
At your assigned gender at birth, I realized actually that all my life I was just a person. I was just a child, and
Gender abolition.
society just put the label boy on me. As a boy,
No, society didn't put the label boy on you. You were born with a penis, presumably XY chromosomes, presumably everything else that makes you a boy. It's got nothing to do with society. Society sees you as what you are because you are a boy. Like, being male is not something that is assigned to you by society. Being male is innate.
I'm supposed to do boy stuff. I'm supposed to like.
So like in years gone by, like back in the day, whatever you want to say, back when having sex and producing children was very, very necessary for our continued survival, was society telling like people to do this kind of stuff? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, so how did sex work before like these kind of societal constructs were really a thing? You know what I mean? Isn't it just so much easier to think, well, you're born a certain way because males and females need to exist for our species to continue. Look at mammals, look at evolution. This person presumably is not a Christian. Anyway.
Boy things. Because I didn't like boy things, people called me a girl.
Stereotype.
To like invalidate me, invalidate my gender identity. Puberty made me realize that I don't like masculine features. I don't like having a deep voice, but I need to have like a deep voice. I actually.
This has got nothing to do with your sex, and you can be male and not like masculine things. You're still male.
I forced myself to speak deeper, to be passing and whatnot, to not have like the harassment. But I started to really reject masculinity. I really started to hate anything masculine about.
This is the problem. You insist that you're a woman, which is a sex term. That means you're a female. But it's all based on gender, which is down the ladder. You can't go back up. You can't change your gender and thus your sex. That doesn't make any sense. If it was possible to change your sex, you could change like your fucking gender for sure. Like, come on, you know. Obviously, because gender is like derived from sex, but your gender is just your experience, like based on how society interacts with you as what you are, based on, you know, things being stereotypically more about one sex or the other. Those kids who called you a girl playing with dolls are bullying you. Yeah.
Me. And then I started transitioning. I realized that, oh, I have to like do all these stereotypical things. I have to fulfill all these boxes in order to be seen as a woman. And that will never happen because a lot of things that I can't change. And I kind of like forced myself. I pushed myself into like this box. Like society pushed me in this.
Society didn't push you in any box. The idea of society pushing you in boxes is extremely difficult to substantiate in any way, shape, or form. It's just talking points. Like these broad... The worst thing is, how many of these people like ever leave their fucking homes? And then they want to lecture you about like society. It's like when I watch like streamers like fucking Xanderhal or something like that. And they want to tell you how fucking society works. And it's like, motherfucker, do you ever leave your house? When are you actually ever around fucking society? Like, I mean, I guess I probably make like broad claims as well. I don't leave my fucking house very often, but I worked for a long fucking time. I've been around a lot of people in my life. You know what I mean?
This box, and then I let society push me into this box because I thought I would never.
You let society push you into that. Like, what are you even talking about?
Be seen as a woman if I'm not a stereotype. And I also had that like during therapy and whatnot, where I was like sitting there and I'm like, yeah, I'm trans. You know, I just want to dress like neutrally. I want to dress unisex. I don't want to do like all these stereotypical.
What's odd is that dressing unisex is more or less dressing male. You know what I mean? Because male fashion is much more neutral than female fashion, I think, at least.
Things. And my first therapist was like, nope, you're not trans them.
And I think another point to consider when it comes to like male fashion versus female fashion and why it's kind of regarded differently going one way or the other. It's much easier for a woman to fit into like male fashion because men are bigger. It's just easier to wear bigger clothes as a smaller person than to wear smaller clothes as a bigger person. There's a lot to it, to be fair. I'm probably simplifying somewhat.
You gotta do these things. You gotta live as the opposite gender to get access. And it's like, what does that even mean? To these people, it means fulfilling the stereotypes that society puts on what it means to be a woman. And now that I'm like through it and I have like bottom surgery and
But so many women are perfectly able to get around in life, despite doing a lot of masculine things, having a lot of masculine traits. Like, men are able to be the same, but the other way round. Like, it's not perfect, but things are certainly moving in a certain direction. It doesn't mean that anyone is anything. It certainly doesn't mean that society is putting people into boxes. Like, yeah, people see male and female because that's what exists.
I'm like starting to transition. I'm re-evaluating my gender identity again. I don't mind masculinity. I prefer...
Re-evaluating your gender identity basically means navel gazing. You should consider finding anything else to do than staring up your navel and wondering what kind of gender you are this time. It's just not a very productive way of living your life. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about it. It's just fucking true. The only way it's productive is if you make money off of this kind of shit, which I have no idea if this person does. Maybe they do on Twitch. I guess that's where they're normally at. That's the only time. Like if you get paid to like pontificate on this shit and you're like an educator or something, which you're not really educating people. You're encouraging other people to take on your weird coping mechanisms for things that probably have nothing to do with your gender.
To be seen as a woman, and I like to embrace femininity, but I also like to just be in the middle. I literally want to do like masculine things, but be seen more as a tomboy instead of society thinking that I'm just a femboy because
There has to be something that society, when he says society, he actually means something else, but I don't know this person. It's difficult. It will be difficult for me to ascertain what that is. Like, this person's brain has been like twisted the fuck up, and I don't know if it's their fault or someone else's, you know what I mean? And it kind of sucks, honestly. Like this is how you're living? This is what you're thinking? Like, I can't fathom, you know what I mean? And it sucks. Like, how many brains have we ruined with all this theory bullshit that's just not true? And you can just be what you want. Society equals his online bubble. Hey, maybe. Although usually these people form online bubbles that they claim do the opposite of what society's saying, because society telling you to do things is bad, but it's very difficult to actually pin down what it means when they say society expects this or that of us. You know what I mean?
I like feminine things. I'm more of a tomboy than a femboy because I'm not a man. You know?
But you are a man. You're an adult male. Like, if you have to make it this completely nonsensical to make it make sense, at what point is it not just Occam's razor? You're a man. You're a feminine man. What's wrong with that? You can be that. That's fine. You can be a feminine man and decide that you'd be much happier as a eunuch. I mean, I'm a little happier as a fucking eunuch because I can wear leggings without anything showing through. I'd never been able to do that before. And I don't know, I didn't have any real attachment to my penis. Like, if you're wanting to have kids, then very much fucking don't go down the path that I did, you know? But I don't know, man. I don't know. At what point are you not just... I don't even know how to say what I'm trying to say. It's so insanely overcomplicated. It's like you could get to a point from here by going this way, or you could go all the way around this way and go all in different fucking directions and like very, very slowly converge on it over time. He's saying he's not a man, but he wants to be a man. Well, I don't know. Very slowly trying to get to the point of you can be male and be feminine, and that's okay. You can have traits that are feminine and traits that are masculine, because guess what? That is everyone that exists, and we shouldn't be pathologizing that. That's the answer.
I do like to dress up and like do things that I haven't been able to do in my entire life because I was socialized as a boy. It's always so interesting. man, you know? I do like to dress up and like do things that I haven't been able to do in my entire life because I was socialized as a boy. It's
I mean, haven't been able to do in childhood, haven't been able to do when under your parents' roof, but it's not always that way. I mean, I don't know.
always so interesting because like all these TERFs and whatnot, they're like, oh, you're just men in dresses, you're cosplaying men.
And then we have to shit on TERFs randomly. Who are you even talking about? Stop generalizing. Why does everyone generalize like this? Listen, that was a huge generalization itself, I know. Like, why do people generalize like this though? Like, why is it always, oh, well, TERFs are always saying this and like right-wingers are always saying that? Like, do they not notice when they're saying that? What does this person think if someone says, oh, well, trans people are all sexist and trans people are all doing this kind of shit? Like, and hang on, let me see if they're gonna say that TERFs are saying a generality. Let's see.
Because like all these TERFs and whatnot, they're like, oh, you're just men in dresses, you're cosplaying men.
Yeah, oh my God. He's generalizing TERFs, generalizing him. You're doing the same in reverse. I don't fucking get it. I don't get it. It's crazy. Like, how do you not notice yourself doing the same thing that you're complaining about other people doing without even naming names? He never mentioned the things he was able to do after post-op surgery. I think it was mostly things like wearing certain clothes. Listen, I'll be honest about it. That's the main, that's the main thing for me. I mean, it's also made my relationship a lot easier because I date a lesbian, you know what I mean? But like, I'm honest and upfront about it. It's about very shallow things ultimately. And people can think about that what they want because I don't call myself a woman. So in my mind, it doesn't have to be very deep. You know what I mean?
And then whatnot, when in reality, it's like, we're not even trying to fulfill this one stereotype. We just want to be ourselves. But
do you? But do you? I don't know if that's true at all.
Be referred to with the pronouns and whatnot that like align with our gender identity. But how our gender expression.
I did hear that men have a pull towards femininity and vice versa. Internal spirit of the opposite gender makes sense to me. I mean, that's very, that's kind of, I don't want to say pseudoscientific. It's a very spiritual belief. And like, I mean, good luck showing any of that, I guess. But hey, I don't know, to be clear.
Is like independent from our gender identity, you know? Maybe you're somewhat like how to with the pronouns and whatnot that like align with our gender identity. But how our gender expression is like independent from our gender identity.
I thought gender expression was the expression of your gender identity, first of all. Second of all, we've never defined gender identity.
You know? Maybe you're somewhat like demigirl. I would have to look into it. I don't want
all these labels and stuff. We're pathologizing a very normal thing. We're pathologizing males having feminine traits. We're pathologizing women having masculine traits. This is just normal of everyone. If you were to find every single person, give them a list of different fucking gender identities without really giving any names and just say, well, which one fits you best? Most people probably are non-binary and have some weird exotic gender identity. Because it's just normal. And it really doesn't mean much of anything. Putting a label on it, like, I don't really know what the benefit of that is, honestly. Like, yeah, you might decide, oh, well, I want to go find other people that have the same gender identity as me. Like, that seems like a very poor way of making friends, in my opinion, because those people could be anything. These people could be anyone with any kind of interest whatsoever. You might just have fuck all in common with them, as opposed to, I don't know, meeting people based on your interests. Like, most of the time when I've met people, it's through music because I make music. I play guitar. You can probably fucking see one behind me. And so I've got stuff in common with those people. So I really don't see what the benefit of any of this is. Like, I don't know what this is helping.
Want to fulfill stereotypes to be seen as a woman. That's just what it is. Society just needs to move past stereotypes. If you let trans people exist.
Society needs to move past stereotypes. Trans is based on stereotypes. See, I'm honest about it. To a certain extent, it's imitation. Like, I'm male. I have longer hair. Typically more associated with women. I wear makeup. Typically more associated with women. I wear, like, leggings. Certain kinds of, like, jumpers and stuff. Generally, women's clothes. There is an extent to which it is based on stereotypes, and that's okay. That's kind of what gender is based on in general. And that's fine. There are stereotypes for a reason. having that many labels is excellent for navel gazing. That is true. You mean you shouldn't make gender your whole identity? Yeah. Yeah, totally.
You can't oppress women with like gender. You can't push this idea that men are superior and women are inferior if men and women are equal. That's just what it is. It's literally just about gender-based oppression. That is the agenda. If you can't oppress women, that's just what it is. I would have to look is like independent from our gender identity, you know? Maybe you're somewhat like demigirl. I would have to look into it. I don't want to fulfill stereotypes to be seen.
What kind of guitar do I have? I have quite a few. The one behind me is a Gibson SG Tribute 60s with P90s. I got it secondhand. It's one of the like cheap ones, so it's not. There's no point robbing me because you won't get a huge amount of money for it. I have some kind of resonator thing. I have a Hagstrom bass. This thing, Hagstrom Viking bass, very nice. Not in amazing condition. I have an Orville Les Paul custom through there. Very nice, also not in amazing condition though. I have a baritone somewhere behind me. I have a Squire Starcaster. Here we go, right here. There we go. Affinity model, again, cheap. Quite nice, quite nice. It sounds like shit. It needs nicer pickups. It needs setting up. But it's quite a nice guitar, honestly. How can you be yourself if you don't even know what you are? Yeah, true, true. What does being yourself mean in the first place?
Seen as a woman. That's just what it is. Society just needs to move past stereotypes. If you let trans people exist, you can't oppress women with like gender. You can't.
If you let trans people exist, which they already are let to exist. I exist. You exist. Let's move past the idea, oh, we're being erased. Society doesn't want us to exist is bullshit, first of all.
You want to fulfill stereotypes. You can't oppress women with like gender. You can't push this.
That doesn't make any fucking sense. What are you talking about? If you let trans women exist, you can't oppress women with stereotypes. What? What does that mean?
This idea that men are superior and women are inferior if men and women are equal. That's just what it is. It's literally just about gender-based oppression. That is the agenda.
This is nonsense. They always have to tie it to these bizarre political theories that make no sense if you think about it for any length of time. Trans people already do exist. Are women oppressed on the basis of gender? I don't know, probably. You probably get women being shit on for like liking like women things. I don't know. I don't really think about things that way, but this is just silly.
It's just about control. They want to push this idea that like, you know.
Okay, we're getting into ridiculous conspiracy theories. I think I'm done here. There we go. Amazing. Niara TV. Amazing.